the much overdue revival of insight into InsurTech. We're kicking off with the topic of no-code platforms. Is it a fad or the future? As many of us will have seen the term no-code pop up more and more over the last couple of years. I'm sure some of you, like me, probably thinks, what does it mean? What's the impact for the insurance industry? So we've invited 3 panelists here today to uncover that topic a little bit more and go into a bit more of an insight as to what that means for the future. So without further ado, I'll hand over to them to introduce themselves. Elliott, if you'd like to kick off for us.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. Good to be here. Elliott Green from OWIT Global. So I'm a global solution sales lead. So we're predominantly in the US and the UK at the moment, but I head up a lot of the sales engagements we have with our clients for our no-code solution, which is based around a microservices architecture. So all very modern, all very cool, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thanks so much, Gary. Do you want to kick off?
Yeah, so I'm Gari Gono. I'm the head of solutions for a no-code platform called INSTANDA, mainly focusing on policy administration, but claims coming soon. And yeah, I head up our solutions team globally, which other people might call the product team, but that's me.
Last but not least, Risto.
Yes, I think in a big picture, I do the same things than you do. So I am from Inslee, and we also, surprise, surprise, do insurance software. And last 2 years have been really aggressively moving into no-code, low-code direction, because that's the only way to get something done in a way, in a reasonable time.
Here. So just to start off then, for those that don't know much about no-code, I'm still learning, so bear with me a little bit. I'm not an expert like you guys, but could you briefly describe what that means for us?
Yeah, so I think from my point of view, just to jump in first there, I think our solutions, we've got a number of different solutions all based around no code. And really what it means is traditionally I used to sell kind of legacy platforms, kind of old versions of what INSTANDA do, where if you want anything changed, you had to go to the provider and they'd have to get a load of developers to code that. And so the whole point of no code from our point of view is that now the power is really in the client's hand, whether you're an insurer, MGA, or whoever, a broker who's using it. As long as you've got someone who kind of has a logical mindset, really, they should be able to use the configuration toolkit to make changes if you wanted to add additional data items, change your rating. That should all then be available in the hands of the business user within that client, rather than ever having to go back to the actual vendor themselves. That's how I kind of see it anyway. Yeah,
and I'll just add to that and say, like, it's probably a spectrum of no code, because I mean it is what it says on the tin, right? It's about not writing code, and you've got other aspects of no code where it's actually I'll just write the code for you and give it to you, therefore you've written no code. Whereas you've got other platforms like INSTANDA and I guess Inslee and everything else that OWIT do as well, which is about giving you the tools to configure what you need in order to get the outcome you have without writing any code. So it's not about someone else writing the code for you. It's about giving you the power to achieve what you need to do, but without having to write a single line of code.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's say maybe I can compare it from different angles. So I think no code is probably, when you compare it to the postal service, then it's when you replace like the pigeon post with an email. I think that's kind of the same effect. Pigeon, you fly it away, you don't know actually what will come out of that, and it takes a lot of time. With the email, you kind of you send it away, it's there, and you know exactly what the other side will read. So I think that's kind of these are the two elements that will happen. First of all, the speed, and second, you kind of actually can see right away. It's kind of, you see what you get, right? So you don't need to wait for 3 months and a lot of people work, and then surprise, surprise, actually that's not something that you wanted to get out of the IT system. And I think that's what no code, low code it gives you more room to experiment and test things out without huge budgets. And you both mentioned that you want to give it to the customer hands to do it themselves. We maybe have we start from a little bit different perspective, because we are mostly selling to the small and medium-sized customers, right? Not to the huge insurance companies yet. So we haven't even maybe seen so much willingness initially that customers want to onboard or build the products themselves. It was more, let's say, how we can actually deliver the things really fast for the customer, and then some things they end up doing themselves as well. So it's like most customers would rather pay you some money and get it done by tomorrow than start doing it by themselves. But we see now customers actually starting to use it by themselves as well. So that's I don't know, maybe the example that I usually do is that Google Forms. That's just what usually people understand. So when you should build a form, then in a Google Forms you can do it. Anyone can do it. Let's say. Insurance no-code system is kind of a bit more complex way of Google Forms, right? Yeah, but it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and I think I know you kind of touched on this a little bit in terms of like the costings and the timings. I mean, Elliott, I know you when you joined OWIT, you mentioned that you've actually already been able to get involved with actually some of the technical aspects around it from when you first joined. I mean, what would you say personally are the driving forces and benefits of no code in the insurance sector?
Also, I think Risto touched on it there definitely, and the whole speed aspect to it, as you rightly say, like if I can configure our low-code platform, then anyone can. Like I have been able to build my own portal at one point, so I'd say to anyone, the toolkits aren't difficult to use, and that's the whole point around it. I do think is speed, ease of use in today's market where, especially in the personal lines insurance, things do change so quickly, and insurance has always been notoriously slow. This really gives you the opportunity to make changes quickly, to respond to market changes, and you would hope that gives you an advantage over your competitors. So whether you're a broker, like I say, an MGA insurer, if you can make those changes very quickly, and I see it in the specialty market as well, but it's not as prevalent as the B2C kind of personal lines market. If you can change quickly, if you can build things quickly, if you can test the market quickly, you can throw up a new product, test it in the market quickly, all using a no-code platform, then that's I think the advantage it gives you. And if they're easy to use like ours obviously is, then that's really going to encourage people to experiment and build different products and try different things.
Have you got anything to add on that, Gary?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just going off what Elliott said really, but it's about the efficiency as well, because you've got the speed is one thing. Everyone wants to get everything done yesterday, as we've all found, but the efficiency as well, because developers have been doing this for a very long time. In terms of if you're writing code, you would be looking at how can I write reusable bits of code so that I don't have to keep writing the same thing over and over again. And with low code or no code, in this case, it's about having all of that readily packaged up, and in a way that it's great. You don't have to write any code, but it's about having all of those things packaged up, so you don't constantly have to go, right, I want a web page, let me write the code for a web page. It's that already exists, and now you're just putting the elements you want on that web page. So I think efficiency is a big driving force within insurance, because I mean, we'll probably get onto it a bit later, but it's not about getting rid of developers or anything like that. And I think Elliott touched on it from the start, which is it's about, you still need that logical mindset. So it's about driving efficiencies for those people with that logical mindset.
No, I completely agree, and I think it's important what you said about, obviously the whole point of it is not to eradicate roles, etc. It is about how can we work more efficiently, how can we move this industry forward, which is very much obviously based on quite legacy systems that create so much data, etc., and have a lot of tools behind it that can create projects that go on for months on end. How do we move at the pace that we need to now as well? Risto, have you got any kind of final thoughts about the driving forces from your perspective as well?
I think the driving forces are there are, let's say, maybe to add one element what maybe wasn't mentioned, that's kind of a little bit more, I don't know, global problem of the insurance industry is also you need to recruit some smart people. Otherwise, there is only kind of insurance industry gets old, right? And how do you recruit new talented persons? So you need to give them modern tools. You need to give them the possibility to work at home. You don't want the young people don't want to work in a slow and boring and legacy with legacy solutions. So I think that's kind of one. In order for the insurance industry to acquire talent, then they should modernize, and no-code, low-code solution is something that is giving that quick feedback. If you as an employee are able to test the things and you get your work has, let's say, measurable results, not that you do something and after 5 years something happens, but you do something and right away something happens. So that makes the industry also more attractive for the new talent to join. I think that's maybe a bit related to what you do, Kim, right?
Yeah, helpful talking a bit about recruitment on these things. Thanks for throwing that in there. From your perspective, Risto, then, obviously the last 18 months have thrown a spanner in the works for everybody, and from an external perspective, I can imagine how the pandemic has impacted the development of no-code platforms and obviously the need for them. But how have you kind of found it from your perspective?
I say, as insurance industry is slow, I have felt that so the acknowledgement that we need to provide these modern tools. We need to enable our employees to work from home. We should have like more cloud welcoming approach is clearly there. But as it has a little bit changed the trend and mindset. But I think that helps us to sell more software in 2023 because it's like actually moving quite slowly. So I wouldn't say that, pandemic happened, all insurance companies said, now we need software, let's start buying. So that takes a little bit time. So, but I think in general, like in all other industries, you can feel some kind of, the shift in mindset, right? So before, if you don't have any crisis, then the change is slow. Now that crisis made that give that nudge, meaningful nudge to the insurance companies as well. That makes our sales effort a little bit easier. There is a more welcoming situation. I think that's what I would say. But of course, otherwise, that's the positive trend. In a short term, many companies put things on hold, but that's changed quite fast. But in a short term, of course, it was kind of positive and negative things happening at the same time. Maybe more negative, but after some time, it's clearly more positive. So I think that's kind of my take on that pandemic implication. But I wouldn't say that that's kind of it's anything kind of what affected us. It's being in a SaaS and a software business is actually quite okay during that pandemic period, right? At least better than in a restaurant and hotel business. So.
What do you think, Elliott, about that?
Yeah, so I think from my point of view, it's just really shone a light on people's insurers' digital capability. I know specifically one insurer who took a number of months to be able to get their workforce to work from home because of how difficult it was to access their legacy systems. So, that really then encouraged them to start looking at, what does it take? What kind of system do I need to be able to let my workforce work from home? And we sell a lot of digital products like portals, data ingestion, rating, things like that all work digitally. You can throw them up on the web very easily. And I think it really shone a light on people's capabilities in that area because people seem to definitely want to engage a lot more digitally with people. As much as people have always bought online, is there more you can do online, self-service, all of that kind of stuff? I think that's something that a lot of insurers and MGAs, brokers spent some time looking at because customers did want to self-serve a lot more. And it seemed to be the pandemic, if you tried to phone anyone, your bank, whoever, you couldn't get through. You always got a message saying, well, the pandemic's here, we haven't got as many people manning the phones. So people were looking to these digital solutions to be able to engage with their insurer, their bank, whoever it is. And that really, I think, then encourage people to start looking at what am I missing in my current architecture, what could I do better, what am I not offering my customers, how can I really make myself better in terms of engaging with the customers. And the whole insurance industry has always been kind of, I guess, not that great in terms of kind of stickiness with customers, selling more to them, all of the kind of the 360 customer view that other industries are very good at. And so I think that real focus on that and digital engagement and how can I be better for my customers was a real benefit from my point of view anyway, as much as obviously the pandemic was a very difficult time for everyone. I think that was kind of a driving force that saw our business, move on a lot.
Right, and Gary, obviously I know you've been in INSTANDA for a fair bit of time now, so how's it kind of like, how did it felt for you from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think what's interesting is whenever people talk about insurance and the impact of COVID or the impact of anything else, people tend to look at insurance from a personal lines perspective and think about ourselves as a customer because it's a lot easier to relate. But what's interesting being at INSTANDA for as long as I have been is like INSTANDA itself is, it's line of business agnostic. You can build any type of insurance you want on there using no code. So you get to see a whole lot of other sectors and how they react as well. So if I put personal lines to the side, what you had previously before the pandemic were people saying, why do I need to make my specialty business digital? It's all about the relationship. It's about me going to meet Rio Ferdinand to see if I can insure his, £100 million house or whatever it is. I genuinely don't know if Rio Ferdinand has a £100 million house. Don't quote me on that. But it was all about relationships, and people were saying, oh, if I'm selling marine business, why does it need to be digital? It doesn't need to be on a computer. I'm going to go and meet the broker in Leadenhall Market. We're going to have a few beers, and then we'll do a deal. And then the pandemic hit, and then all of that couldn't happen anymore. And suddenly people were in this position of going, actually, it's not about being better to my customers. It's just in some cases for some specialty lines, people were looking at it going, I actually can't sell my insurance anymore because everyone's at home. And to Elliott's point, I can't access my legacy system anymore because usually, I'd go meet them in the pub, make a deal, come back, go on the green screen and put in all the details. And suddenly I don't have that anymore. So I can't sell my specialty lines insurance or whatever niche insurance I've got going on. So suddenly everyone who we'd spoken to, years before, and they were saying, nah, I don't need to digitize any of my specialty lines, were suddenly jumping up and saying, I really need a way for people to be able to access this insurance whilst we can't go into the office, whilst I can't meet them at Leadenhall and everything else. And, to what the other guys have said, it was great working for a software company in that sense during such an awful time for everyone else, because you're able to actually start making an impact to people's businesses and people's livelihoods as well. Because if you've got cargo going across the world, you can't really let the ship set sail without any insurance. So it was that level of the commercial side of insurance I started to see a real impact that COVID was having.
No, that's really good insight there. And from your perspective then, as a takeaway, I know we've obviously mentioned the reliance quite heavily on legacy platforms for many years. What would you say to insurance leaders that are hesitant of the concept of no code?
Yeah, so I mean, it goes back to a point I was making earlier, which is it's about efficiency. I think for all of our sins within the industry and anyone making low code technology, we've at some point all sold to say you don't need IT anymore. Anyone can do it. Even Sue from accounts can now configure a product and start selling it. Yeah, or Elliott, and I think what people then underestimate is the value of the IT organization. It's not just people writing code. And if you go to most even big insurance companies, small insurance companies, not many people are actually writing code within these insurance companies because they tend to outsource it anyway. So they're not really writing code. And what people misunderstand is they think that by introducing something that's no code, you're getting rid of the rest of the governance. You know, you still need good architectural decisions. You still need your project managers. You still need your business analysts to understand what's going on. You still need all, you know, the support function. You still need all of those functions governing this particular no code platform. But what it means is, rather than outsourcing and having the actual build of what you're doing in someone else's hands, you can have that in-house much more easily. So I think the hesitance comes from that idea that people think by getting a no-code platform, you're scrapping the entire IT department, and that's not the case. You're just providing a better efficiency and better ownership for the IT department to have ownership of that build as well.
Oh, brilliant. Elliott, any takeaways from you?
Yeah, I just so what I think in terms of insurers who are kind of obviously reluctant around this or have their reservations. So our no-code solution is based around microservices, which means they're kind of small components that you can fit into your existing architecture. So what we do a lot with insurers who kind of don't necessarily understand it or are hesitant about it, because of the flexibility of no code, the ease to configure, you can obviously put, you know, a POC together, solve a specific pain point to kind of prove out the solution. So I think we're seeing a lot more of that within insurance companies, MGAs, like I say, brokers, where they're going, actually, I've got this problem with my existing architecture. I don't want to have to go through this huge replacement of my legacy policy admin system, but if I could get solve this specific problem, you know, a digital issue, whatever it may be, and I could plug that gap, then we do a lot of that. And I think that's kind of a gateway to then people go, oh, I've had this legacy system for this long. Now I'm looking at a no-code solution. What other problems can I solve quickly, easily? And it comes back to the whole speed and efficiency that both obviously the other guys have mentioned. If you can solve specific problems quickly, easily, without having to do a huge project, that really gives you quite a degree of power. And so for anyone who's kind of hesitant about low code, no code solutions, I'd say just try it. You know, you can have a little project that doesn't take up a lot of time and energy and just really reap the benefits of the whole thing.
Oh, brilliant. And Risto, any final thoughts from yourself in terms of why leaders might be hesitant and what you can say to kind of counteract any concerns they may have?
I haven't really met any customer who is hesitant to the no-code or low-code solution, because like, what's the logic? No, I want to use the command line. I don't want to use the graphical user interface. Like, that's complete. Doesn't make no sense. Only thing where the hesitancy, what could be the decision point is whether I want to do it myself or I want that IT company to do that. So, and that's what I said in the beginning. So in our case, even if customers say that we want to do it themselves, then actually, if you don't do these changes every day, then it's easier to kind of us to. But then it's just a question whether the developer does it or in the support during the phone call, fixed done. I think that's kind of, you necessarily don't need to force that you need to do it yourself. But when you can do it with no code, then like there's no hesitancy over that. So that just would be just completely irrational to say no, go and start coding. That's more beautiful. So we like to kind of torture you. You need the right code. We like when our partners are suffering and fixing bugs, and that's really enjoyable. I mean, maybe there are customers like that, but I personally haven't really met them. So yeah, so I think that's not a lot of convincing that needs to be done. So I think the good question is whether they believe. But I think the biggest question is what Elliott, you mentioned, whether they want to change the existing solution. That's like that's the pain, right? And again, I think we all use that strategy that we don't kind of always go in and let's replace everything. So you can eat that in small pieces, and at one point everything is changed. And that's when also we develop our software. So we don't kind of say, let's delete everything and build it from zero. You always do like gradual improvements. And I think that's kind of the normal evolutionary process of becoming digital. Sometimes you cannot do that. In most cases, you can start using right step by step.
It's actually quite a good bit of insight there, because I can imagine it is such a big commitment to go, right, let's wipe the slate clean, let's start again with all that legacy code that's there. It's kind of like all that investment they've already put into it. It's kind of walking away from that, what they've already done. But it definitely sounds like there's benefits to be had from the low code, no code future that
because
is
that really helps customers to own, because when you can, because what customers are afraid of is big, long, expensive IT projects, because they have, let's say, in their historic mind, whether they have done it or their friends have done it. There's so many stories of 3-4 years projects burning a lot of money and then getting nowhere. And who wants to start again this kind of project? And now from our side, let's say like with Rio, so if we go with a no-code solution and we give it after the sales meeting, we can give to the customer, that's actually how your product will look like. Then they actually understand there is no risk. It's kind of already done. I have maybe one small step to do, and I can start using that. And that makes the sales process kind of easier, right? Because the customer sees what they get already during the sales process, more or less.
Yeah. You've already hooked them in with the speed, the efficiency. They know what they're going to get. It sounds like there's a lot more control from their side as well. And likewise, as you touched upon earlier, obviously the movement towards like no code will ultimately help with regards to abilities for businesses to be more agile with their workforce, more ability to work from home, better talent attraction because you're working with more revolutionary software, the ability to actually have access to the platform without being a techie as well. So it sounds like there's an endless list of benefits, etc. Obviously, I know we're all a little bit biased on this anyway. I think from the short amount of time we've got today, I think it's helped me understand it a little bit more. So I'm hoping it's helped everybody else that's watched it as well. But I thank everybody that's participated today. And I hope you've all found it useful as well, just meeting each other. In terms of our next episode, that will get released in December, which is more around the B2C side of InsurTech, and that's around how consumer behaviour has changed over the pandemic. So we've got 3 panellist members, so keep an eye out for that. The material will come out in the next few weeks. But again, no, thank you for your time today, guys, and I'll catch you all up in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's great to meet everyone as well.
Yeah, thanks very much, Kim, and yeah, good to meet you guys. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Bye bye.